Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside CG. Today we've got a very special episode following the success on the weekend. We had the ISKA Fight Night, and today we've got the coaches, we've got the competitors who were all a part of it, and I'm super excited to bring this to you. We've got Tom Gilmore, who made his return to the ring following his debut a couple of weeks ago, I'm pretty sure. We've got Kazuma Otori. We've got Daniel Zotto, who jumped in, I'm not sure, third or fourth fight, Dan? Second, sorry. Uringer, and then we've got super coach Brian Harris and Tim Levens. Am I missing someone? No, we're all here. Awesome. So obviously today we're going to talk about the experiences, some of the exciting things that happen behind the scenes that perhaps people don't know about. Also the journey of each of you guys and the individual. Because not a lot of people know that you guys are everyday people that have just set goals, you've worked consistently, you've dealt with the setbacks, and here you are, post-fight, sitting on top of the world with some great results. We're 3 from 4 wins, and I would have to say I'm very proud of every single one of you. And obviously we've got the amazing experienced handsome coach, Tim Levens, as well, to talk about the journey and share his experiences. So to kick us off today, we're going to start off with Brian, your perspective on Tom's journey thus far, where he's come from at the very beginning to having his first fight and how long that's taken, and then obviously, talk us through that.
Yeah, so Tom's is a big one. Now, Tom initially came into the club over a year and a half ago, so 18 months ago, probably a little bit longer than that. Came in with just the intention of weight loss. Come in big boy. Weigh-in day, it was over 40 kilos. I believe he's lost from start to first fight. Massive journey, transformation, and maturing along the way. Like I said, he came in with no intention to fight and just got hooked. It's progressed through the ranks of our system. I think it was end of last year we started having a chat about fighting and stuff. I took him to an interclub by himself, and at the end of it, he goes, "I want to fight, but only when you think I'm ready." Went through it. 4 weeks ago, he had his first fight. We didn't get the result we wanted, and we took some major setbacks along the way from that fight to the next fight. Just with confidence, his training performance dropped. All the sort of self-doubt stuff came in. Am I ready? Am I good enough? Is this really for me? Obviously, we sat down and had some chats. We did some hard training. The expectation of some tough love came out, and my understanding was that one of the keystones was probably resilience and a bit of toughness. So we worked on that. Worked really hard on that, and come last weekend, they put it on display, and that was probably the number one thing that was the standout. He was tough, and as soon as he realised, I think halfway through the second round, it all just clicked together, and he just leveled up, and it was amazing to watch. It was a hard fight, but that journey, I think that was that stepping stone that needed to happen, and it showed. Come end of second round and third round, he just dominated. So it was really good to see.
Absolutely. Awesome. Now, Tom, let's go back to you. Just rewind to your first fight prior to this weekend. How many weeks ago was that you made your debut in Centre Ring?
Yeah, I think as Brian said, it was 4 or 5 weeks ago, something like that, and that was on the Legends Fight Show. So yeah, nervous coming into that, of course. It was, I don't think the experience fully hit me until I was halfway through the second round. I hadn't really woken up, or I had this kind of mentality where I wasn't completely there. I wasn't present. I didn't have that will to hurt the other guy or to push myself to that point. I think I just I'd almost accepted defeat for some reason, but that was just like a confidence and a mentality issue. I I hadn't gone in there with the will to throw it all on the line, and I think it like evidently showed because he just walked through me like and I led him as well, So yeah.
Okay, so fast forward. The next morning after your loss, what when you woke up, what went through your head? Talk about it, because it's a hard feeling to describe. Everyone wants a fairy tale finish of winning their debut, and obviously that didn't happen for you. Tell us a little bit about what you felt, what went through your mind.
Like I want to say that I just kind of like swept it under the rug and tried not to like I really tried I tried not to think about it. Like of course like all the Instagram stories were up and stuff like that, and I had like a flood of messages of people saying like no matter result doesn't matter, like you put yourself in there and like you should be proud of what you did. But I had a really like a horrible feeling that I disappointed so many people, and not only like the breadth of people that had come and attended and bought tickets, but like that I disappointed people like Brian and yourself, Pamon, and like and Jack, and it was like I hold opinions of certain people in very high regard, and I think no matter what people said, if they said that it was that they were like, yeah, you didn't disappoint me, like you got in there and stuff. It was just like, but I just had a real, like kind of overwhelming feeling of, of guilt, I guess. I think. Yeah.
I have a question for you, and it's a hard question, Tom, because I've coached a lot of people throughout the years, and one thing that people sometimes choose is to when they fail is to give up. Did that ever go through your mind following the fight, not getting the result you hoped for, and how did you deal with that, and how did you overcome that?
It 100% went through my head. I think it was probably the best thing that Brian could have done was book the next fight before I said no, before I could say no. Like, I don't think Brian booked it with the anticipation of me losing the first fight, but I think the fact that he did do it, I think he knows that I'm too stubborn to say no to another one, or like to back down from a fight, because I think that's like that process that I went through a couple of years ago where it was like I kind of got into like I've forced myself out of the mentality of get like I don't give up very easy, I guess. I mean, maybe in a from the fight sense, maybe I gave up in the fight, but like from every day going and training and pushing myself, it was like that's I wasn't gonna walk away, even as much as I wanted to bloody pull a hammy or fake an injury or something coming into the next one. I was just I was like, there was no way I wasn't gonna do it as much as I wanted to.
Awesome. And one thing I've got to point out, you didn't disappoint me in that first outing, and it was great to see you come back and have the win that you did on the weekend, mate. And we'll go into that very shortly as well, play by play. Now, Brian, obviously yourself, mate, when it comes to coaching, one thing when it comes to great coaching is not just training people, but also coaching them not in their present state, but coaching to potentially where they should be or the vision that you have. Like, tell us about what you were thinking in your mind and what was kind of played out when you were kind of like, let's book him for his second fight, and kind of coaching him with his mindset and obviously dealing with a massive setback and failure.
Yeah, so with the way the system is here, I think it's really good to just take all of the pressure out of those first 6 fights and just say, let's just learn along the way, and just really take away from the win-loss. We all want to win, we all want to succeed, and we all want to do well. But if we're putting it on that pedestal of you're no good if you lose, and that in your first few fights, this is where we learn. This is where we work things out. We work his style, work what's strong, we work what we have to really, really hone in and improve. Just by putting, okay, for the next 6 months, and that's what we had the initial chat, we're going to book these fights in quick succession and just roll from one to the other, so he doesn't dwell on something, whether it's the win or the loss. He keeps improving, keeps maturing, and then we start working out his style, his strengths, and book those fights from that 5 to 6 to 7 sort of fight range when he's really developed his own style. It worked out well in that regard. because he was dealing with the loss and that. And I feel like if we put that wall up, that barrier up, it would have taken a lot of work to get it back down. My belief with these guys, all of them, is they all have it, but they need to believe that they have it. And the best way to do that isn't always the win, but it's the fight, and to have that turning point, that penny drop moment where you're like, oh no, I'm in this. That may be when you've got to pull yourself up off the canvas, in Tom's case, or dig deep, bite down, and just really go. And that's what I knew Tom could do, and he proved it on the weekend.
Yeah, awesome. And I still remember just looking at across. I hadn't actually seen Tom's opponent because I'm not big really on looking at the comparison judging a photo when I see the weigh-in. But I looked across, and this guy was like 7 foot tall, and like he's a scary looking dude, man. I was like, holy shit, Tom's fighting this guy. Oh, let's see what he's made of. And sure enough, like it was a little bit slower than Tom. Obviously, he hit hard, and I still remember in that round two, Tom caught his right kick and then got landed with like a right cross straight after, leveled him. His eyes rolled back into the back of his head, and um, to people have to see it to believe it. Tom actually got up like the Gypsy King when he got knocked down by Deontay Wilder. It was one of those moments, and I think the crowd was in absolute frenzy. Tom, what were you thinking in that moment?
I don't even remember what hit me. I remember the bell ringing, and I walked at him, and as I walked at him, he threw a kick, and I went to catch it, and then as I caught it, it like my memory goes blank for a second, and I woke up, and my ass was on the floor, and I was like, I don't know whatever that was, and then I remember getting up, and like my head was spinning a little bit, but like it didn't hurt. It wasn't like I wasn't sitting there being like, damn, like it was. I just kind of got up and I was like, all right, well, I got to pay it back now. And I think like as Bryan said, it was just like halfway through that second round, I was like, I'm not taking a backward step. I'm gonna like I'll land my punches, and I'm gonna knock this dude down. And it was in the last 10 seconds of that round when I could see he just kept on walking. He kept on trying to walk into the clinch, which is what you guys pointed out to me in the corner. And then as he walked into the clinch, he had his head down, and I just took a step back and did that uppercut, and then he fell down. So yeah, I mean that feeling hitting that uppercut, and him just like falling over in front of me, I was just like, whew. Yeah, crazy.
And man, in the corner, I'm slapping Bryan on the back, jumping around like a monkey gone crazy. I could not believe what I'd seen, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Tom Gilmore has knocked down the 7 foot giant, and he's won a piece for the 8 count knockdown, which has made it even again. Because in a 3 round fight, if you get knocked down for an 8 count, unless you knock the other guy down, a lot of the time you're not going to win. So from there, it was even playing field. You obviously worked really hard in that last round, put the beating on, and you came on top of. We came out on top with a great, like, absolutely fabulous result, man. So congratulations. Back to you, Coach Bryan. How did you manage Tom's weight? Because obviously, fill me in on this. What did he start at in terms of weight? What does he weigh in at this fight, and how did you manage that from his first fight?
So what was that? What did he initially start at? No, so in the
Yes,
120
roughly.
mark, I believe like the 125 odd. Am I right, Tom?
Yeah.
We started his
120 kegs. Holy geez.
Yeah, that's what I started at. I ate a lot of food, man. I was so hungry. I was so hungry all the time.
We'll come back to that. I've got a question for that, but yeah, go on, Bryan. Tell us how did you lose the weight, and how did you maintain between fights?
So he's been really good. He's actually at a point now that we're probably going to pull him down 2 weight classes, just because the weight. It's just his training ethic. He's obviously got his food down pat. We're giving him a lot of food, actually, like in the high, in that high 2,000 mark, 2,600 odd on the daily, 2,600 calories, and just feeding him so he can train at a performance. And his training ethic's amazing. He comes in, does his sessions, busts his gut, refeeds his body so it's not stressed, and it's just falling off him now to the point where he wasn't dropping weight right up until his weight cut in his last week was beautiful. He basically walked on the scales on weight. No sweating, no nothing. Just a little bit of loading, and didn't have to reduce anything.
Yep.
Um,
So he went from 120, or the 120s, I should say, to his first fight, which was what weight?
Yeah, so he weighed in at 84.
84.
But we initially started, and I think he was at between the 89 mark when he started his fight camp. Depending on the day, it was between 88 to 91 if he'd had a burgers on the weekend. But I think around that 89 mark is what I
And
remember.
the most recent fight was nice. And the most recent fight was a similar weight?
But I don't think he
Awesome.
didn't go back
Well,
up past 87. So he really maintained his weight well.
Wow. So it goes to show, number one, eating to make sure you're having the right amount of calories to perform and recover and not feel like shit in between training. Making sure you train consistently. Because, Tom, I think you train in the mornings as well as the afternoons and help Bryan with the coaching, right, as well?
Yeah. So in the lead up to the fight, I think, I was doing like mornings and nights. I wasn't training nearly as much as Tim, but I was doing mornings and nights. I'd miss some mornings and stuff like that. Maybe I think like kind of coming up to the fight when I didn't have to lose any more weight, and we were kind of busting our gut at night time. I was missing a few of the mornings during the week, but it got addictive. You know, like I was.
What got addictive? Tell our viewers and listeners.
Like, just when you fall into like a routine and like seeing the both like progress in your training and your fitness, and then your weight dropping, but then also like the being at the gym with all the people that you see all the time, and it's just like I find it a really good way to start my day and a pretty good way to finish my day. So yeah.
Great insight, and thanks for sharing that with us. And just a little known fact that a lot of people probably don't know, and maybe our listeners will be very shocked and surprised by. I'm pretty sure you came in on one of our trial programs at the very beginning, and you didn't want to be a member with us until you had to have a hard conversation with one of the team where we were like, "Well, you're a member with us, mate, and you're here for a while." Do you want to share, like, obviously not go into too much detail, but basic general gist of it? How do you reshift your focus from what you wanted to do, and then you were like, okay, and then you found yourself here nearly 2 years later?
Yeah, I mean, I started, I was doing, like, at the start of my weight loss stuff, I was doing just kind of like jets, like bro split, squat, like the regular shit, like push pull legs. And then I think I was just, I think during school I did team sports and stuff like that, but the thought of joining another team sport and doing, like, I played soccer in school, or I was like, oh, maybe I could go play footy or something, and then I was like, oh, I'll go and try, like, hitting pads that could be fun. I mean, I'd never done anything like it, and then I went and I it was just a Facebook ad, and I joined up, and then I started at Highgate because I lived up that way, and then I did the trial, and then after the trial, like as the trial ended, I was like, oh, I think I'd rather, like, instead of spending the money on membership, I think I'd rather have that money to go and spend on the weekend or buy some more food or something, because I was a fat shit. So and then I had that and then I messaged MemberCare and I was like, oh, I want to finish up, and they're like, oh, you're locked in, champ. You're in there for another 12 months. There's no way you're getting out. And and I fought it a little bit. I tried. I was like, oh yeah, I'll get a lawyer or some shit, some dumb shit. And then and then I just had to keep on going. I think I did maybe a few more weeks, and then COVID hit, and I had no money. and I managed to, I got a suspension from you guys, which is a massive help. And then I remember I moved down to Freo because I moved back in with mum and dad because I was broke. And then I started at Myrie. And that was where I met Tim.
Very cool, very cool. And I guess it's one of those things that it is a hard thing, and I do cop flack for it, but we want to work with people that are going to achieve long-term amazing results like you have, Tom, and I take my hat off to you, mate. Obviously, sometimes, we have other priorities in life that perhaps get in the way short-term, but tell me this, we're looking back now, do you regret making the decision you made and working with us for the time you have and, moving forward?
We've had this conversation before, Pamorn. I said to you that it was probably the best thing that happened was that I got forced into a contract and I had to stay there. So it was like, as much as at the time I was like, these people like taking my money and stuff. And then I think I got like 6 months into it, working down, like because I think I started doing boxing and then I didn't do anything except Muay Thai. And then after that, I just I graded to white singlet. And I think after that, I just never stopped. I never stopped coming. So, yeah.
Congrats to you, man. I'm so proud of you. And like I said, working together with people like yourself, you are one of our, huge success stories, man. So I can't praise you enough. Now, if we jump across to Coach Tim Levens, Tim, tell us a little bit about the journey with Kazuma and obviously the choice in opponent, given that we've got, kind of a lot of limitations coming out of COVID. Talk us through that.
So I've only coached Kaz for about 6 months now, but it came quite easily when I moved over just because we are quite this but similar body shape. So my style goes really well with him. He's pretty much just been training non-stop since I've been there. And we've been going to interclub after interclub. Obviously, with the lack of shows at the moment, I've pretty much nominated him for every show. We've had matches and then pull-outs and matches and pull-outs. So putting him in that 54 to 58 kilo range just to try and find him in that matchup. Obviously, I knew that maybe he might get put up against someone with a little bit of a size difference. But I think just getting him into a match and just sort of breaking the ice would just be like a good experience for him and just, get him inside the ropes. And then from then on, like Bryan said before, those first 6 fights don't really matter too much. Just find your groove, find your style, and then build on that.
Absolutely. And Kazuma, talk us through. You obviously stepped in with quite a larger, bigger opponent. Not only in height but also obviously building in general. You did amazing, man. Like obviously you started a little bit slower, but you finished really, really strong. But maybe a little too late. But tell us, how did you feel in there?
I was not scared actually, but I was more like happy because I was be able to have fight finally because I have been waiting for kind of half a year to fight. But yeah, when I get in the ring, I didn't feel fear. I just wanted to smash him. Yeah, pretty much.
Very good. Very good. And Kazuma, obviously you're Japanese, and you've been here how long now?
2.5 years.
Yeah. One thing I call Kazuma is a samurai. He has a samurai heart. He's not afraid of whether it's a challenge, an opponent, a setback, or failure. Kaz is the one that has always picked up his sword, gone back to sharpen it, and obviously I'm really excited to see you, Kaz, return to the ring sooner rather than later. Because obviously before Tim came on board as your coach, I had the pleasure of coaching you, and you've one of the hardest working individuals that I've ever met, but also very respectful and very graceful, as are the Japanese people. So I think when you have a long bloodline of warrior spirit within yourself like you do, good things are only going to come. So, mate, you did so well and you made us very proud. Obviously, just very, very short on the result. I don't think it was a big loss, to be honest. And, I'd love to see you back in there as soon as possible.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty, so if we jump across to, we call him the Tasmanian Devil, Daniel Zottel. I don't know if we have a nickname for him yet, do we, Brian?
Buddha.
Yeah.
All right, we'll call him Buddha, as named by Jack 300. All right, Daniel, talk us through obviously your feelings going into the fight and how'd you feel in there, mate?
Oh yeah, definitely had the nerves leading up to the fight, as is natural. But in my last fight, I sort of already 2 weeks out from the fight, I was already really nervous and scared. Whereas for this one, it sort of just hit me the day of the fight, so I was able to sort of deal with the nerves a lot better. But at the same time, I was more excited, you know. In the last fight, I was sort of like, oh, let's just get through this. Whereas for this fight, I was actually really excited to go in there and to put on a good performance. And as everybody who fought, everybody here knows, once the bell rings, all the fear goes out of the window, and it sort of just happens. And yeah, I think it was good.
Awesome. One thing that stood out to me that we discussed in the change rooms after the fight was your nerves going to your first fight. Tell us about what you said to me about the expectations and the fear and nervousness and what sort of pressure that added. And tell us how you were different in this time and how perhaps you developed the skill to be able to control that.
Yeah, for sure. So for the last fight, as I mentioned, very nervous, a lot of pressure sort of to deal with. I mean, there was so much pressure, so much that I didn't even invite my family and friends to come and watch me because I was too nervous that they'd come and support me and I'd lose. That was my mentality going into that. Instead of my mentality being, I'm gonna win or I'm gonna give it my shot and make people proud, my mentality was, oh, I might actually do badly, and I don't want to take the risk of people being disappointed in me. So for this fight, I sort of turned that on its head and I looked at the glass as being half full. And I just, same thing as Brian mentioned, taking away the pressure in terms of winning or losing. I mean, you've got guys with literally hundreds of fights, and I'm worried about 2 fights. I'm worried about a second fight. So it's just about getting in there, get the experience, do your best, and yeah, you be better off for it. So I did that, and I also practiced mindfulness. Did a bit of Wim Hof breathing, which actually did help me a lot. I did 10 minutes of that every day, and I don't know how it works, but it made me more calm and helped me to deal with my nerves.
Awesome, awesome. And I guess it's when you weigh it up, Daniel, going into your first experience where you had a lot of pressure on yourself that obviously was internally manifested and played a part in, heading into that preparation into the fight itself. When you compare it to this experience just recently on the weekend, how much easier was it by practicing mindfulness, turning it on its head, changing your approach and your perspective, having it glass full? How much easier was it for you?
Easier to implement or easy?
Yeah, it's just in terms of weight on your shoulders carrying into such a big
Oh
fight.
yeah, yeah, so much easier. You focus on the stuff that you should focus on, and that's just training hard, focusing on your technique, focusing on performance instead of focusing on all these sidebar things that actually don't matter and they just weigh you down. Um, I think the hardest thing is just sort of getting into a habit of doing it. But once you're doing it, it takes care of itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. And Brian, if we just come back to you, man, I want to ask you, in your expertise, in your experience, you get someone like Daniel who's been training for a little while now, and you get someone that has come in and they maybe, let's say we put them side by side, we put them in the same environment. What is the difference between two people, Daniel and just say, let's say Ghost Mode or a character that we bring in that would, train alongside Daniel? What does Daniel do differently, and how has he gotten this far in his journey based upon your experience as a
Daniel's very
coach?
focused. He's a great athlete. Hits hard, moves fast, and he's very, very explosive. But as soon as it's go time, I don't ask anything of him. He just in. He does everything he needs to do before I even ask. Then he does his runs. He's self motivated and self driven. Everything on his outside work is all him. Comes in, and all we need to do is nurture and grow. Work on the little things, but it's like we don't spend energy. Hey man, you got to go harder. You got to work harder. You got to do this. We don't have to have those conversations because it's all self driven, self motivated, and all we need to do is step here, try this. How about you try, like, rather than going forwards and backwards, let's start doing some movement. So it's a lot different approach with how we speak with Daniel. Um, and I'd say just he's just self driven.
So basically, self-driven, focused, pushes himself, and
Yep.
self-sufficient, essentially. Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. And Tim, Mr. Tim Uringer, he's had, your fifth fight, Tim, was it?
Yes, fifth one.
Jumping in against a top-ranked super middleweight in Dion Alderton, who's fought, obviously, had many fights. He's fought some of the best in the state himself. And, mate, you went in as a massive underdog, and I think a lot of people are expecting you not to come away with the bickies, mate. So tell us, what were you, like, where did you see Dion heading into that fight? Like, in terms of perspective and, where did you rate him in your mind?
To be honest, I tried not to think about it too much. I just focused. I thought if I think about it, it will space me out. It'll take me off the path I need to be on. I just focused on myself. I told myself, regardless of what I think about him, all I can do is train as hard as I can. So that's what I focused on. And I didn't think much of it. I just showed up in the morning, trained, showed up in the afternoon, trained, did what I was told to do by my coaches, and thought, whatever happens on the day happens. I mean, either way, regardless what I think of him, nothing would change that. So
Yes.
why not think about it?
Obviously, you were dropped in round 2, I think it was, with a left hook, was it? After copping 3 or 4, and I was wondering how you hadn't been knocked down, and I think the 4th or 5th one that landed actually dropped you for the count. You got up off the canvas, and I guess I like to ask the question: what was going through your mind when you stood up?
It was panic. There's a couple of voices in my head, so I was quite dazed. When I stood up, there were 2 refs in front of me, and I knew somewhere there was only meant to be one in my head. Something was still telling me that's wrong. So there was all my main responses were quite dazed, and I was a little bit confused. But somewhere in the back of my mind, there was still quite a clear voice telling me, just breathe, blink, focus, and don't let it get to your head. I just had to keep doing what I was doing. I knew if I let it get to me, that I tried, if I ran in and tried to land a big punch to get him back, he'd catch me again, because I'd noticed he was quite experienced. He was reading me quite well, better than the last few opponents. So I had a clear voice telling me, just breathe, step back, circle out, reset, and try again from a different angle.
And sure enough, the result came, mate.
And bite down.
Say again, sorry?
Yeah.
Say again?
Oh, and bite down on the mouth guard.
Bite down and go hard. And obviously, you got the great result in the split points win, which is a massive scalp for someone like yourself in your career coming up. And obviously, Bryan and I had a great chat there, saying we've got to get you booked in for your next fight straight away. Obviously, over the last couple of months, 6 to 12 months, you worked really hard in your own career as well. In events, and you've done really well at that as well. So tell us a little bit about that and how that's kind of had an impact, and how you refocus from just working to going, hey, let's put some time into training and ticking this massive bucket list item off your own bucket list.
Well, in general, with all aspects in my life, I find it hard to find middle ground. Like earlier in the year, I was focusing on the career, and that was all I was doing. I was hardly at training. My weight skyrocketed. I couldn't focus on any of the training aspects, and I really focused on the career, and it paid off. I achieved the things that I wanted to achieve there. And then once I'd sort of done that, once work quieted down for the season, I moved back to training. And then anyone that's trained with me knows when I'm training, that's all I'm doing. So once I'd finished that part of what I was trying to do, I readjusted, reset, and just started training morning, night, and everything else kind of falls in place around it. It's get the nutrition back on track, lose the weight, and get back to fighting.
Very cool, Tim. I still remember, actually, while I was setting up my RE before it actually opened in its infancy, I was laying the mats, and I remember this car pulling up, and this young fella got out, and he goes, "Oh, I'm just here to see Championship Murray before it opens. I'm going to come and train here. And I was like, mate, the amount of time, if I had $1 for every person that said that, I'd be rich. And sure enough, here you are nearly over 2 years later. And, mate, you've done some amazing things. That was you, so by the way. Pleasure to coach. And obviously, Brian's very proud. We're all very proud of you, mate. What's next for you?
I want to try and fight twice this year. That's a big step for me. So far, I've only ever made it once a year. Something always gets in the way. So for me, this year, I have one more fight to get six amateur fights out the way, the ones in pads, and I'd like to do that this year. So for me, it's not a big goal, but for me, the goal is numerous fights instead of just one.
Brian, what is it for you as a coach? What is your vision? Like I was saying, coaching people where they are now to where they should be in the future. What is your vision for Tim, Coach Brian?
Yeah, so as Tim said, it's very hard to get Tim fights. Tim's sort of in that middle ground where anyone in his experience won't touch him. So we're having to take. So his last opponent had twice the amount of fights as him, and that's sort of the area that we have to take fights to keep him active. I think one more fight, if we can get it pretty quickly around that sort of area, get him out of pads, and then start challenging, these top 2, top 3 in the state, which they're big fights, they're hard fights, but Tim's got the work ethic and the drive and the discipline and the skill to achieve it.
Who are we looking at? Who's in the scope when it comes to snipering the top 2 in the state?
There's arguably 3. So Riley, Stefan Lottering, so Riley and Asta, Stefan Lottering, and I know we were matched with Mika, Michael. That fight will happen. I know Tim's hungry for that, and I know Mika wants it too. Any of these 3, they're the top. And I think on the weekend he proved that he belongs there. He's got the heart, he got dropped, he got up, and he won. So I think outside of that knockdown, I'm pretty comfortable that he won pretty much the rest of the fight.
Amazing. Very, very cool. And really excited to see you take on those top 3, whoever they are, whichever that one is first, Tim. And pleasure watching you along your journey, mate. Keep doing that, all that hard training and all the hard work that you've been putting in, mate. It will pay off, even if that is a state title opportunity. Because if you can beat one of the top 3, potentially that may put you in line for the next state title opportunity, which would be amazing.
Definitely.
Next champion on the wall. All right, so back to you, Tim Levens. Tell us, how is the fight team feeling post-COVID? Now there are more amateur shows. How are you finding it managing their mental health, their fears, insecurities, and just overall?
I wouldn't say I'd have to manage their mental health too much. I think the fight team is, they're pretty good as a team, so they pretty much handle that all themselves. But they're just hungry. Like, everyone's hungry to get on a show. I think I got about 6 or 7 people looking to make their debut now. It's just about finding those matches. Obviously, we have about 4 girls on our team, and there's just no girls in Perth that are looking for matches, especially at that 56 to 60 kilo range. So, we're just trying to get as much experience as we can at INS clubs, and hopefully we can find some matches soon.
If you could say to all the girls out there listening, what would you be saying if they're thinking about fighting and they're potentially on the fence?
Just do it. There's nothing to lose. Like, you're going to have a ball. You won't regret doing it. Win or loss, It's a good time.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing that. Brian, what about you, mate? How are the post-COVID feels and the overall team and their mental health and, managing that?
Yeah, all in all, I think they're all good. I think they're all back in. They've all ventured back in pretty much and done some movement, hungry. It's brought all the other people out, as it does, the people that go to the show and watch these guys fight. Classes have been packed. Starting to we'll start pretty much back end of this week, start of next week, start putting our plan. I know most of these guys have already asked for the next dates on the shows, and so they can lock in their work, lock in their schedule, start prepping for it. They're all keen, they're all eager, and now it's just trying to get as many as we can on the show. We've got heaps ready to go. Um, just need more shows.
Awesome. So we're red hot, raring to go, ready to jump the rope and bang on, essentially, which is exciting. I just want to go around the group before we finish up here today. It's been a great conversation with you all. Like when it comes to courage, resilience, as we talked about, and obviously overcoming adversity, even when it's physically getting knocked down to the canvas, getting up to win, it's huge. I want to go around the group and ask, what is your overall goal in Muay Thai? What is the end game for you? For me, when I started out as a fighter, I want to become a world champion. Obviously, I never got to achieve that, but I find so much passion and so much value in what I've learned from some of the many world champions I've worked with. So, Tom, what is yours? Share it with us.
It's a broad question. I think if I had to say something, it would probably be I think I'd want to keep it in my life. I want to keep it in my life for as long as I can. It's going to keep me. I think my goal is probably just overall health. I don't know if it's to be the best in the world at fighting or if it's going to be something like that. But also, like I'm really I'm really enjoying helping out the just like general members. So like taking on that coaching role. So I've been enjoying that and my overall health and fitness and becoming a better fighter. So we'll see what happens next.
That's amazing. It's very cool. And like you talked about, it's not always a vanity, wanting to be a world champion, like I just mentioned. It's also just when you realize being the best version of me or being the best version of you, which is so, so valuable. And I think so many people neglect that these days. So that's amazing. Daniel, what's it for you, man? What's your long-term goal in Muay Thai and for yourself?
I think for me, long-term goal would just be, I don't know, maybe it sounds a bit cliche, but it would be just to keep it in my life and to keep improving. Especially with a couple of things coming up with work, and I don't know where I'm going to be in the next few months and things like that. But I want to make sure that I keep getting in consistently to Muay Thai training and keep improving. And if that sort of manifests itself in more fights, or hopefully one day becoming sort of taking on more coaching roles, something like that, then so be it. But yeah, keep leveling up.
Awesome. And Kazuma, what are your goals, man? What are you hoping to achieve?
Before coach team asked to the Highgate team the same question, and then I answered I want to fight at least 5 times, but because of the last fight, I thought I really love to fight, so I changed the answer to I want to fight as much as I can, and
Beautiful.
also
Guys, let me ask you, what do you...
so
You go. Yep, sorry.
and also I have been doing coaching at Joondalup as well, and I really enjoy that. So to become better myself so that I can teach more to others. So I want to be better also.
Awesome. What I was going to ask you was, what is it that draws you to fighting and why do you love it so much?
The to have a fight is one of my challenge after the through a couple interclub hit out sort of stuff, and then that was the last interclub at Legend, and after that I feel like I wanted to fight this year, and then my goal for the year was to have a fight. Until then, yeah, just the next step was for me.
Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, man. That's
Yeah,
amazing. So look forward to seeing you having as many fights as you can.
yeah.
And Mr. Tim Uringa, what is your end game? What are your goals, mate?
I've said it a couple times, so I'll say it again. I want belts. I want belts. I will take a state title. I will try to take a national title, and we'll see how far it goes. I mean, it's too early for me to say anything, but I'd like to go as far as I can. Though I also obviously have other goals in my life, and I have to try and see how I can fit fighting around that. So same as the other guys, I'd like to definitely always keep fighting in my life, because when I'm fighting, everything else seems to work well for me. And whenever I stop, it doesn't. I get fat, I gain weight, and my mental health deteriorates. And I'm always happiest with myself when I'm training. So first and foremost, I just want to keep training in my life because it makes me happy and it makes my life go the way I'd like it to go. And then within that, life allowing, depending what happens, I want to get as many belts and as many achievements, accomplishments within fighting as I can. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess it goes without saying, without our amazing coaches and leadership and their experience and their passion and the energy they put into you guys, I have to ask Coach Bryan Harris, what are your goals as a coach and what are you hoping to achieve as an end game for your team?
Yeah, so I've always been pretty honest with that. So success is one of the big goals. Creating a team that people know is something that's always driven me. I want to have a strong gym. I want to have gym where people know the fighters, and in the long run, with that, I want to have almost generations of fighters. So fighters that are training fighters who used to fight, and then the next gen, and then the next gen, and just having that stable. I think that's something that I've always wanted, and I was a part of that. And obviously, I want to be a champion trainer. So I want to have my fighters succeed, win the belts, and achieve the goals that they want. And it's that makes us as coaches just as proud as what it was when my hand was raised. Watching them succeed is if not better than when it was me.
Amazing. Thank you, Bryan. Now, we've lost Tim from the podcast momentarily. If he does jump on before the end, I will ask him the same question. But, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It is very, very special to have your time, but also your, play-by-play experience and what you felt and what you experienced in there, because a lot of people talk about fighting. A lot of people want to do it. Not many people get a chance to do it. And to be knocked down onto the canvas and to get up and win is a huge achievement. So, honestly, guys, from the bottom of my heart, as a founder and director of Championship, I'm so proud. I can't thank you guys enough for always going out there and showing us and representing our brand and what we're all about. Resilience, courage, bravery, and most importantly, just never say die and never give up is so important. I've seen so many men and women knocked down to the canvas who've given up on their shit, or given up on their knee, I should say. And you guys definitely didn't do that. So well done. We'll look back in years and years time and go, that was a moment that kind of solidified, what we're all about, and we want to produce more of that where we can. Thank you so much to all the listeners out there who have listened to this episode of Inside CG. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, comments, feel free to comment below, and be sure to let us know who you'd like us to interview next on Inside CG. My name is Pamorn Mart D. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.